been southbound, I've been hellbound, riding on the midnight train. Going too fast now, think I ought to slow down, standing in the pouring rain.
What's going on, guys? Tristan and Tony here with the Zero Duck 30 podcast.
What is up, y'all?
Today we got on Jared Droze. Some of y'all may be familiar with that name through TikTok. I know Jared's got a pretty decent following over there, and the reason we wanted to have him on is he puts out such a great positive message to a lot of the youth, and after all, his YouTube channel is called Next Southern Generation, and if you guys follow him, you know what I'm talking about. But Jared, we're excited to have you on, man. Thank you for taking the time out to come on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, dude, you're doing some neat stuff, and I can't wait to dig into some of this tonight.
Oh, man, I'm excited to do it myself.
I know you're excited to start talking about some turkey hunting here in a minute.
Oh, man, we're tore up. We're about to start our turkey tour.
Well, I can tell from your YouTube videos. I watched probably 3 or 4 of them today and saw you in North Carolina, North Florida, so I know you get around a little bit.
Yeah, we do. We're going. I think we're hitting like 6 or 7 states this year.
Wow,
Beautiful.
dang, man. Well, so where are you from, Jared?
Eaton, North Carolina is where we're out of, but we got boys on the team from all over. So we got from Virginia to South Carolina. We got boys from all over.
That's awesome. So yeah, so I guess you're just hitting basically the whole Southeast pretty much, huh?
That's right. We majority of our team we have met through social media, which is really cool to me as far as like some of our camera guys. So basically what we do is we switch up on the camera. So like I'll film a lot, they'll film a lot, and so we all met on social media through posting hunting videos, and we just made an amazing team through that.
That's awesome, man.
We'll talk a little bit about that team.
Yeah.
You know, what was the driving force behind that mission? And before you do that, I don't want to give you a fully loaded question here, but, you know, break us down. Who are you on a personal side, professional side, and just kind of help our listeners, know a little bit more about you.
So basically, we're the same people we are on camera as you would if you met us in person.
Beautiful.
So we try to base all of our people kind of off of their personality and stuff like that. Are they good at what they do? Because I have got so many times with the call company by, people, we can help you make sales if you send us calls, this, that, and the other, and we'll send them calls, and, we don't get any sales from it, so we're giving away free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we really had to be careful on doing stuff like that. But these boys we got with us now, so basically I tell them when we have shows. So, like, we got a show we got to leave for tomorrow, and so we got quite a bit of the team coming there, but they'll go with me to shows, and I'll pay for their food and their housing and everything. And then when we got hunting trips coming up through duck season or turkey season or whatever, I'll send a big message to the group chat, and the first however much room we got, that many that respond first, they get to come on and go hunting with us.
Nice, man. Is that what you're doing full time, Jared? Is just the content stuff and the wicked killer calls and all that, or?
No, so I'm a commercial fisherman. So I crab and catfish, and my dad's business is the street debris removal, so I help him do that as well.
Okay, nice, man.
Very cool. So, kind of drop us down. Who is Jared? Who are you? Where are you from? I know you're from North Carolina, you said, but, dig into a little bit about what got you into hunting and outdoors and stuff.
All right, so basically, I killed my first deer when I was probably 5 on my granddad's knee with a muzzleloader.
That's beautiful.
And he had shot a doe that come out first, and I was playing in the bottom of the tree stand on my toy trucks, and he said, well, then another one come out. He said, you want to shoot your first deer? So I got up there, and he shouldered a gun, and I killed my first deer there. And I've always run dogs my whole life. So I got 40 head of deer dogs at the house, and coon dogs and squirrel dogs. And so I've always ran dogs since I was knee high. It's just always been what I love to do. And it just struck from there. And I did through the deer hunting and dog hunting. My granddad taught me a lot on that. But as far as waterfowl and turkeys go, I really learned majority of that on my own. So waterfowl, we learned all that on our own. We started making duck calls when I was 12 years old on a lathe, cutting a tree down in the woods and turning it on a lathe. And that struck our fire for making duck calls. And so once we got going with that, we started giving duck calls out and everything to people, just friends and family, and that struck waterfowl for me. So I started hunting waterfowl a lot harder. And then old turkey come along in my life. and that's what stole my heart. So I killed my first bird when I reckon I was probably, I don't know, probably 12 years old, somewhere in there, probably about the same time I started making calls. And I killed that bird with a guy. He took me for the first time. I killed the bird within like 10 minutes on one of my farms. That struck it. So I get 2 tags in North Carolina. So I was, I'm going to do this on my own. I said, I can do this. This looks pretty easy to me. So I'm walking down one of my streets by myself, and I look, and there's 5 times down there strutting. I said, oh, man. I said, I'm going to do exactly what he did to kill that other bird. So I belly crawl out there, and I put my decoy out, and I call one time. Next thing I know, I got 5 toms sitting in my lap at 10 yards. So then I killed him. So that was the first bird I killed by myself, and then that just lit a fire to me. And then I started doing competition calling at a young age, and the turkeys are just, social media has allowed us to go all over the country turkey hunting. So basically everywhere we're going, this turkey tour has been people off of social media.
Hey, Jared, real quick, man, not to interrupt you. You're breaking up a little bit. I just want to make sure we're getting you clear.
That'll work.
All right, sorry guys, we were having a little bit of technical phone stuff. You know, that's technology. But anyway, Jared, we were talking about your turkey tour and stuff, and how you're connected to people through social media, and you guys have built like a good group of guys and stuff. And take it from there, man.
So basically, our turkey tour, we're starting out in North Florida on March the 18th.
Nice.
So I had a kid get up with me. We went down there and ran dogs, and I met this kid, and I didn't think nothing about it. And I said, well, we're going to go back down there and try to turkey hunt. So on our way down there, he had messaged me. And, we're all about the kids. And he had messaged me. He's like, look, we got some turkeys. You want to come and hunt them with me? He said, I've never killed one before. So I drove 8 hours to Florida and filmed this kid shoot his first bird.
That's awesome.
And I didn't even get behind the gun. Majority of the time I just sit behind the camera, because last year we killed 24 birds with 8 misses.
Man. Is that the one? I watched a video today. I think the kid had kind of like curlier hair, and he shot it. It was, man, I'm pretty sure it was North Florida. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you made a video.
That was it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw that.
That was our first YouTube video we ever made.
Wow. That's cool. I didn't even know that. I didn't look at the date, but that's neat.
Well, we were, everybody was like, y'all need to start a YouTube channel. Y'all need to start a YouTube channel. I mean, we were just amping it up on social media. Y'all get ready. We're about to drop this content. It's about to be amazing. And we get down to Florida, and for a whole day, we didn't even hear a gobble or see a turkey.
Oh.
And I was like, this ain't going to be good. So we get settled that morning. It was rough. And I said, man, let's go check out that pasture again. We pull up to the pasture, and there's 2 birds out there strutting in the pasture. I said, now this is more up my alley, because most of the time if I can see him or I can hear him gobble, he's usually gonna get a dirt nap. So we got to moving on him, and I put the decoy out, and all of a sudden he just takes off running right to me, and I ain't got to where nobody's situated yet.
Yeah,
so I sit here behind. He's jammed up on that fence right there for like 10 minutes. Just gobbling, looking at me, gobbling. And he just turned around and takes off all the way to the back of the pasture to chase some jakes. It's like 600-700 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to jump across this fence, with this barbed wire fence with the decoy. And the guy behind me says, Jared. He says, Jared, here he comes. I said, there ain't no way this turkey. I said, I can't even see him. And I jumped back down on the side of the fence I was on, and I sit there. And sure enough, he just straight beelines it all the way back from where he just come from, all the way right back to us again, and the kid smokes him.
Dude, yeah, I remember seeing on the video, it's like the turkey's just like sprinting at you guys the whole time, and you could hear you talking to the kid, like I think you said something like shooting a deer or something.
Yeah, I try to talk them through it. So we do a military youth hunt every year for military kids for our youth chapter.
Oh, that's great.
So my parents, they run a nonprofit organization, which we got chapters all over the country. Which so we pay for the hotel, we give them a gun, we give them a guide. We do a deer hunt and a turkey hunt every year, and that's coming up the first weekend in April.
Nice.
So I took 3 kids opening day for our youth hunt. I took a brother and a sister. The brother killed one that morning. His little 9-year-old sister had one dead before lunchtime with me, and the other girl missed a double that afternoon. And I spun around and took her the next morning, and she had another. She killed hers.
Wow, that's
Wow.
awesome, man.
That's so cool.
We're kind of, it's funny. One of the last things I had on here is to talk about turkey stuff, but it came up first, and obviously it's fresh in everybody's mind. But I want to pick your brain on, me and my dad, I've killed one with my bow in Missouri deer hunting one time, and like he did the same thing, I think. And we never really have we just never grew up in a family turkey hunt and don't really know it and stuff. And we're kind of, learning, cutting our teeth here in North Georgia. And I was just wondering, what are some like good tips for us and listeners and stuff for, a newbie turkey hunter?
So body language is everything. It's like reading a deer. So you got to be able to read that bird in a field or whatever he is. If he's with hens, if he's not the dominant bird in the field, if he's getting pushed off, or if he's aggressive, if he's more laid back. So basically, the play field's wide open on how you can kill a bird. We've killed them with decoys, no calling. We killed them every way in the book, but 100% on what separates turkey hunters is being able to read an animal's body language.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing when that, as far as, so for example, I took a kid the last week of the season, and he had missed one that morning with me, and he was all down. He was upset. He's like, are we done? I said, no, just be calm. I said, we're going to get one. And I pull up to this field, and when I step out
As waterfowlers, we experience all kinds of extreme weather conditions. Stay bone dry and warm with Frog Togs hunting gear. You can check them out at frogtogs.com or at frogtogshunt on Instagram.
truck, the bird got hammers. I mean, like 75 yards from my truck.
Wow.
Right in the little road. So I hide my truck in the woods, and I bail out and around, and I sneak out there, and I stick a hen decoy out, and we get the kids set up. And I call one time, and he cuts me off. He's in the field full strut, and he's working his way. He's working his way across the field to me, and he just locks up and stands straight up, and his head changes color. And I said, that ain't good. So I said, you keep this bird's attention and keep him in this field while I go back to the truck and get my other decoy. So I spin around and go back to the truck to get the other decoy. And when I grab the other decoy, when I get back to him, he is getting ready to step foot in the woods to go away from us. And he sees that decoy, and his whole demeanor changes. He turns around back in full strut, head turns back bright blue, and he just beelines it right to me.
Wow.
And the kid, that was his first bird, and he smoked him at like 30 yards.
Wow. So what's the, I mean, I literally don't even know what it means as far as their head turning colors. Does that mean they're kind of like freaking out and they want to get out of there, I guess, or?
So basically, if his head's like a red color, like it ain't got no blue in it or whatever, it means that he's uneasy. And if you ever see him start flicking his wings, so if he comes out of strut and he flicks his wings a couple times, if he flicks his wings, that means he's uneasy. He ain't liking it. He's getting out of there.
Huh.
So if you watch his body demeanor and he stands straight up and his head turns a color and he flips his wings a couple times, you better make a move on him.
Man, yeah, that's.
But
good.
if that's really a main point that we pay attention to is head color as far as birds. And a lot of people don't pay attention to stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I spent last spring, looking at a lot of turkey videos and stuff, and I don't even know, probably watched 10 different videos, and I never heard that point made, So basically, a lot of times around home, our birds don't roost with their hens. So like their hens are roost 200 yards, and he'll stay with his hens in that field so they'll fly up, and it'll be about pitch black dark, and he's still moving to the roost he wants to go to. So a lot of times, if you pay attention, you got to know where they want to be middle of the day. So our fields are good first thing in the morning and late in the evening, but in the middle of the day, these birds are going in and hitting these food plots that's got some shade on them because
he can still be full strut in these streaks in the woods and in these food plots, and they can still see him from a bigger area rather than if he was just in the woods. You know, he still wants everybody to be able to see him, but he don't that hot sun on his back. He don't like it.
I gotcha.
So he'll get in the woods and strut in the middle of the day, and then later in the evening when it cools off a little bit, they'll start working back into the fields. But if you can ever get between him and his hens, I mean, that's game over. And 9 times out of 10, if I'm watching a flock that I'm trying to make a move on, I never pay attention to the gobbler. I always pay attention to his hens.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get in front of his hens and get them to walk by you, you can hang him up.
I gotcha. One thing I just learned the other day, and I'm curious about how, you know, you travel a lot of different places, and I know there's some mountains and stuff in North Carolina. North Georgia is very hilly and mountainous and stuff. I just learned the other day that I guess a turkey will never come downhill to you, but will come uphill.
So we've hunted a few mountain birds and we've killed a few, but I've learned something about them birds. Like, if you ever call to him and he gobbles right there, a lot of times he won't come straight to you. He wants to walk that bottom around and come back up where that bottom ends, you know. And we faced that a lot when we hunted the mountains in North Carolina this year. We struck a bird up on the roost, and I was looking at him in the tree strutting.
Yeah.
And when I watched his hens when they pitched off on the other ridge, and he followed right behind them, and we chased him around for the longest time. And when he finally got with his hens, he quit gobbling. So we had made a move on another bird, and we got him to gobble. We was right on the edge of a food plot, but it was a big, steep drop, and he would never break that hill to come. He'd never break that hill to come into that food plot. He was walking that bottom to come back around to us.
Ah.
So the mountain birds they're definitely different. We have not hunted a whole lot in the mountains, you know, because we're going more toward the mountains this year. But a lot of our birds we've hunted on the East Coast. Like, we've killed birds in Texas and Florida and Virginia. I mean, we've killed birds all over, but we've killed a few in the mountains. But we really are learning a lot still on how the mountain birds work 100%.
I gotcha. Huh. Well, yeah, that's interesting, man. Well, I guess let's get back to switch gears. You know, let's kind of get into, when did you start the whole, you know, TikTok, and I guess that maybe ties into YouTube too. But you know, I started following you because I just saw these positive messages talking about either getting youth involved in hunting, or, you know, whether it be, you know, something on your heart about God or whatever it may be. You know, what kind of inspired you to start putting out a good positive message out there?
So this is a good topic right here. This one's gonna give y'all a kick.
All right.
So I got banned like 3 times on 3 different accounts.
Uh-huh.
And I was a hell raiser at like 16 years old. I had a fake ID. I was in every bar chasing college women. I was a bad kid. So my best friend passed away in an ATV accident. Well, I was laid up with a girl one night. I was fired up. He was supposed to be with me that night. He said, I'm going to go ride forward. I said, you know what? I'm going to go. I said, I'm going out of town. I said, I'll catch you in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I woke up that next morning with like 50 missed phone calls.
Uh-huh.
And I said, this ain't good. And I answered. I said, what's wrong? They said, Chase got in a bad ATV accident last night. He said he ain't doing good. So we just had a deer dog that night. I was hunting with Chase's brother, I was opening day of deer season and got slapped by a bear, and the bear killed the dog, and we had to go in there and get the dog out.
Oh man.
And so me and Chase's brother were walking through the woods, and I was like, man, I mean, what do you think? What do you think? And the boys that were on the ATV with them, and we've all been friends since diapers, T-ball, and everything, they were just chasing a deer across a wet field and hit a wet spot, and they just took the wheel, and the side-by-side landed on his back and busted him up.
Oh, man.
And I was like, man, they were all like, I don't know if he's going to make it, Jared. I don't know if he's going to make it. But I always stayed positive with it. You know, I was like, he's got it. I said, he's got it. I was like, Chase is strong. I was like, he's got it. Mm-hmm. And me and the boys were going up a creek one morning to go duck hunting. About 5:30, I got the phone call from his brother and was like, I'm sorry, Jared, he just didn't make it. Mm. And I was like, and it was awkward silence all morning that morning hunting, you know.
Yeah.
And we still couldn't wrap our head around why, you know, you're not supposed to question the Lord and ask him why, but we wanted to know, like, I just didn't understand. You know, I didn't understand why the Lord needed me more than I did.
Right.
And now look at the bigger picture of what the Lord has done for us is just crazy. So I was a pallbearer, and I read a script for him. I wasn't man enough to speak it at his funeral, but the preacher spoke it. And when we put him in the ground, you know, I sat there and I talked to him, and I was just like, man, I just don't know why. So a couple of weeks went by, and I just didn't understand. I didn't understand. You know, I was drinking my pain away, you know, doing bad stuff. And I went to his grave. I said, I'm going to see him. And I was sitting there on his grave talking to him, and just the Holy Spirit come upon me. And I didn't know what it was at the time. You know, I had shied away from the church, you know, and the Holy Spirit had come on to me, and I didn't know how to act, you know. So I was like, this is something that I needed. I don't know. I said, the Lord had this all planned for me. So I went back to my home church, and I sat in the back pew, and I just listened. And the next Sunday, you know, I was like, I need to go to the altar. So I went to the altar, and I got saved, and I rededicated my life to the Lord, become a member of the church. And then I started talking about it on social media. And so I was like, well, the Lord is calling me to get more kids in the outdoors. I was like, because nowadays they sit behind the video games and everything, and they don't get in the outdoors much. Sure. So I had all these kids messaging me, wanting to take them hunting. And, you know, I would love to take all of them hunting. It's just hard to. So we did our youth turkey hunt. You know, we started praying every time before we went hunting, talking to the Lord, showing the kids when they killed the bird on how the Lord created it. You know, this is creation. Just sit back and thank the Lord for what he's done for you. And these kids, it's just because a lot of times church, it pounds it on them. Like, if you go do wrong, that you're going to go to hell. And my preacher, he was been through the ringer. You know, he was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and when he was doing what I was doing a few years back. And so he can relate to us. You know, he don't never shun us away. He just brings us in and loves us more. And that's more what these kids need, rather than them getting fussed at. They just need to be shown the right way and show them that there's other ways to get closer to the Lord than just being in a church pew. Yeah. No, that's great, man. So we started taking these kids, and we needed something that could fund a YouTube channel. Yeah. So, you know, it was hard paying for it out of our pockets. So the boys brought it up to my attention, Jared, why don't you reopen the call company back up? And I was like, well, I said, I reckon I can. So it used to be Mill Pond Calls. So we switched it over to Wicked Killer Calls, because we always said it was about to get wicked on our YouTube channel. So we said we want something to do with wicked. So we named it Wicked Killer Calls, and we started making calls, you know, putting them on social media. People started loving them, you know, but we're just about to the break-even point on this call company. I'm hoping this next show will get us to the break-even point where from now on it could be able to fund, you know, what we do. That's great, man.
That is beautiful.
And I guess, so I've been following you, I guess it was before last turkey season for sure. So probably maybe like a year and a half. How long you been doing the call thing? Because pretty much since I can remember, it seemed like you were posting at least, you know, something about the calls.
So basically, I started making duck calls when I was 12. So, you know, I started out with a hammer and a chisel in my bedroom. Okay. And I made my first duck call like that. Wow. And then I got my first lathe, and I started turning a few, and man, it was so frustrating. You know, it's just, I was blowing acrylic up, I was cracking wood calls, and I got fed up with it. I finally started getting the hang of it. And so this year, so basically we ain't been making turkey calls for a year and a half. Okay. Yeah. So I bought my first turkey call jig last year, and man, it was a pain. I had to figure out how to make them mouth calls, and it was just a pain in my tail. And I finally got them figured out, and you guys, each one's pulled on a different tension, and we finally got our tensions figured out, and we started giving them to people for free to try out, and everybody was loving them. So
awesome.
I made 300 today. So
Wow, holy cow!
What time did you get up? 12:01.
Yeah.
yeah, we've been pounding out hard today. We got our youth turkey hunt coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And we got flooded corn and flooded timber tracks and everything. So one of our ponds is a small pond, probably about 1.5 acres. I'm gonna pump it full of water and I'm gonna fill it with catfish for them so they can fish middle of the day when they get done turkey hunting.
Oh, that's
Nice.
awesome, man.
Heck yeah.
So we've been working on that too.
That's great, dude. That's all amazing stuff. And I guess it's kind of a good segue into just talking more about the YouTube channel and stuff. And, you guys, we were talking earlier, you put out, a great positive message and stuff. And I was just watching several of your videos today, like you were talking about earlier, you pray before your hunts and stuff. And I really enjoyed 2 of the turkey videos. I watched the North Carolina turkey video and then the Florida video, and then I also watched you and your buddies in the Oklahoma Farm Pond 4-man. And
oh yeah,
that was a fun video to watch too, man. And I guess kind of just go into more on the YouTube, what you guys got planned as far as videos coming out and stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, and before you dive into that, Jared, thank you for sharing the personal side of all of that. That's an amazing story and a true tribute to your buddy Chase.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, we try to do everything in honor of him, just because if it wasn't for him, I feel the Holy Spirit right now. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be where we are right now. I'd probably be dead or something. There ain't no telling where we'd be.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate. I've got a good friend of mine that if he didn't ask me to go to church, I can't tell you how many lives that has changed by him just asking me to go to church with him. And it's sometimes, you go to church and the pastor says, hey, just ask people to go to church. And I think that a lot of us just sometimes don't realize how impactful that simple question could be to somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
So amen to that, man.
I'll tell you the one that got me the most lately. So my preacher always told me you got to go back to where it started. If stuff starts going south, you got to go back to where you met the Lord first. So, and the Holy Spirit, we were at Charleston at a show, and the Holy Spirit come across me in the motel room before I was coming out. And I said, man, Lord, I've been bad all weekend. I said, what could you possibly want with me right now? And I got to walking down the hallway, and I got in this elevator with this man. I said, and I always ask somebody when I come up to them how their day's going or how they been. And I said, sir, well, how's your day going today? And he said, I could tell he was uneasy. He said, I just lost my daughter. She was 20 years old, lost her to cancer.
Oh.
And that's how old Chase was.
Mm.
And I said, we got out. I said, sir, when we get out of this elevator right here, you mind if we put hands on you and pray for you?
Mm.
So we got out the elevator right there. And right there in the hallway, we laid hands on that man, and we started praying for him.
Man.
And the Lord started moving on us again. And the whole way home, man, sometimes I get sleepy driving home. But, man, I was just wide awake. And the Lord just kept telling me, Jared, you got to go back to where it started. You got to go back to where it started. And I don't like going to Chase's grave. It bothers me, uneasy to me. And I went back to his grave, and it was just refreshing. It was everything the Lord has done for me just hit me and it made me open my eyes back up and don't put the blinders on what our mission is with these kids and what we're trying to get through.
That's just great stuff, man.
That is
great.
That testimony. Is so cool. Very cool, man. I didn't mean to cut you off, Tristan.
No, man. That's great stuff. And the one thing that resonated with me earlier is you're talking about your pastor. He's kind of been through some stuff, and this guy that we live up in North Georgia now, but the church that I was the most connected to in my life and really enjoyed, going to. The guy was from South Carolina and grew up, in the outdoors, just being a knucklehead too. And I guess he grew up Baptist and stuff and started this church in Jacksonville. His name's Joby Martin. He runs, Church of 1122 there in Jacksonville. And man, he just the way you can relate with somebody like that, and then of course, you know, him being connected to the outdoors, being an outdoorsman helped too, obviously.
Well,
but,
and you go to the men's bathroom and there's deer rats in the bathroom. You're like, yes.
The whole point I'm getting at is, you know, you said something about showing these kids that you don't have to be in a church pew, you know, necessarily to find God. And I just, that's always kind of been something to me too. Just, you know, whether you're in your deer stand or whatever it might be, you know.
Well, and I'll tell you a quick funny story is my buddy Dave. I got out of the military, and I remember we were sitting around playing poker, me and all my buddies, and I was so excited because I was going to start deer hunting again, you know. Mm-hmm. And there's all my best friends were there, and I thought in my mind before I went there, I said, I want to ask somebody to go with me, you know, and I knew who was going to go, and nobody that I thought would did. Mm-hmm. Except my buddy Dave. All right. So and he's a fellow veteran and stuff, and he's now passed. But that's the friend I was talking about that had asked me to go to church. And anyway, I got him into deer hunting, and we're out there, and it got down to the tough times of deep, dark winter, and it's 12 degrees, and you're wondering what you're doing up there and all this stuff. And he texted me on the phone. That was back when you had to hit like, you know, one button a lot, you know. Yeah. I mean, and so it took you like forever to say, hey, you know. And he texted me and he said, dude, and I'm just going to say it like it was. He said, dude, don't think I'm, and I nothing against that. I just want to be clear about that. But that's what he said. And I said, what? And he goes, have you ever prayed in your tree stand? And I said, buddy, I said, when you go deer hunting, I said, it'll connect you to God, because when it doesn't happen right, you're like, all right, God, listen, I promise that if you just let me see a deer today, I shall do whatever. I mean, and I said, yes, Dave, all deer hunters have prayed in their tree stand. I just want you to know that. However you get connected.
Man. Well, look, this is a crazy one here. Our first YouTube video, you know, we were going back to Florida. Mm-hmm. There was a man down there. These kids kept coming by our room, these little bikes and stuff. I said, what in the world is going on out there? So I get out there, and we're out here in the middle of the parking lot with this Osceola fan out taking pictures, you know. Mm-hmm. And man comes out there talking to me. He's like, the Lord told me to come talk to y'all. I said, this is crazy. I said, how'd you know? He said, the Lord told me. I said, well, I gave him the rundown on what we stand for and everything. He said, well, y'all stay true to the Lord. He's got big plans for y'all. And that just drove us more, you know, that the Lord's putting people on our path, on the road. And, you know, it's just powerful that he has that ability to be able to do that.
Wow.
That is crazy, man.
Heck yeah.
I think is my uncle, my dad's brother. He's like, it's always, you know, it's hard in the moment to like see what God's doing in your life, but if you can look back and see how the dots connect, it is crazy, you know. Yeah,
it'll spin you, and you know, it'll spin you in circles. Well, it's just, I mean, there is a giant rabbit hole we can go down, but anyway, we'll save that for another time.
Well, so back to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, man.
So basically what we got coming out, we got 5 turkeys that we killed in last season that's getting ready to come out.
Nice.
If we had a camera rolling on us 24/7, we could definitely post a YouTube video every day. We're always doing something. Mm-hmm. But one of the most memorable ones of the last week was the dude's phone alarm went off the whole way the turkey was coming in.
Oh, no.
So, like, this turkey, I watched him pitch out. He was roosted in, like, 5 trees in the middle of a cutover, and I watched him pitch out in this field. And I go around there, and I busted Jake up, and I said, that won't the time. I was like, that won't the time. I said, I'm going to back up, and we're going to play it safe right here. About 3 minutes went by, and old Tom sticks his head out in the path, and here he comes. But about 7:30, all of a sudden I hear, dee-dee-dee. I said, oh, this ain't good. This man's literally here. He's literally rolling around over here in the bushes trying to get his phone to cut off for like 3 minutes straight with this turkey coming to us. And the turkey would stop, and he'd look around, and I'd cover it up by calling. And he'd come right in there, right in our lap, and he literally shot the bird with the phone alarm still going off.
Wow. That's, it's so crazy to hear that, because it's like we do all this stuff as duck hunters and deer hunters and turkey hunters to, put ourselves in the right, right thing we can do, whether it's trying to control your scent or, trying to play the wind or the calling or whatever it may be. And then you have something like that happen. And you're like, man, is it all like, how much of this is BS,
Yeah, if we wouldn't have had it on video, I don't believe nobody would have believed us.
That's crazy, man. That is the cool thing about having a YouTube and recording this stuff is, like me and my dad have been doing it. This was our 3rd year we've been putting out duck hunting, and we put a couple deer hunting videos and stuff. But we figured out the worst case scenario, we're gonna have these memories to look back on video. That in 20 years it'd be awesome to just sit down and look at that stuff. I mean, I don't know how. I'd imagine we're probably about the same age, Jared. I'm 26, and just like the stuff that my dad saw, when he was our age, hunting and stuff. It would be amazing to be able to sit down and watch that stuff.
It's gonna trip you out, man. I'm not but 20.
Well, I figured you were probably, somewhere between like 20 and 25, just,
Yeah, so. But it's definitely been an experience. It's definitely been a roller coaster with the camera rolling. You can go back and you can talk crap to the boys on who missed and who didn't miss. And it's always hard to figure out who's going to run the camera when a big flock of ducks is coming in.
True that. Yeah, y'all, because I noticed in that 4-man video, you started out, in the morning just filming, and it was kind of just like that first light push that, and you always take that risk of like, if you're setting up on the film, camera first, that you might not pull the trigger that day, but that's just, part of it.
That's exactly part of it. We've been to Oklahoma 5 years in a row, or we missed COVID year, so. This was the craziest year we ever been out there. That big cold front was coming down from the north. Oh, yeah. And we'd shoot these, we'd bust them. I mean, we were smashing them. And the next day, we'd go back and look at these ponds, and the cold front had them so jammed up, there'd be twice as many birds on the pond the next day as than the day we shot it.
Wow. That's crazy, man. As far as your duck hunting content, like I'm just curious at what, other YouTubers do and stuff. Like, we kind of hit this point where we had a good weekend of filming hunts and stuff. We got these guys we work with out in North Florida that we just met. My buddy that's part of like Zero Duck 30 and stuff, met him on a riverbank in South Georgia, and his name's Dalton Whitley and runs Salty Shots Photography, and he's came out and filmed a lot of stuff with us over the years. And outside of him, me and my dad do our thing, but he really is like way above and beyond what we can do. I do all the editing and stuff, but anyway, he comes out, we film a bunch of good stuff that weekend. My wife got on our first duck hunt and stuff, and we kind of got to this point in about mid-January where we're like, shoot, man, we got some good hunts to put out, but we got to wait till next duck season, because duck season's falling off in 2 weeks, like the YouTube algorithm. I don't know. Do you pay attention to any of that stuff? And
I really don't pay attention to the algorithm. I just pay attention to what I do.
Yeah, and just post it.
So what time of the year do I go on YouTube and look up duck hunting? Or what time of the year do I go to YouTube and I look up turkey hunting? Usually it's a month before the season or something like that. Exactly. So basically we held all the turkey hunting videos from the last week to post this month coming up,
Yeah. And that's kind of the strategy we're taking with our duck hunting stuff, is like pretty much everything after, I don't know, I guess after New Year's or so, we're pretty much that we didn't get out. We're waiting until, September, October of next year, to post, which is kind of, it sucks because you're sitting there like, man, I want to get these videos out, but you just got to play it patient.
That's right. Well, when I first started the YouTube channel, man, I just had this little old zoom in, zoom out camera.
Uh-huh.
And my buddy Cole Huff, I met him through TikTok. He come down turkey hunting with me, and he had this camera suit up. He's like, "What do you film with, man?" I said, "I film with this thing right here." Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I was like, "I put it right here in my vest. I'm gone." I was like, I said, "All I gotta do is hit a button to zoom in, a button to zoom out." He calls it old zoom in, zoom out. And that's what we started out with, was just an old Sony zoom in, zoom out camera. Mm-hmm. And And that's how we. And I bought a Rebel or something like that, Canon, about $5 camera, and I started filming with that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and buy me a Canon R5. So I went there and bought me a Canon R5, and that's what we're filming with now.
That's great, man. Yeah, we're kind of. I don't know the cameras that great, but my parents had bought this camera back when I was playing football and stuff, like in high school, and just for stuff like that. And so it's probably 10, 12 years old now, but it's a Canon 60D, and I think it's a little bit like better than the Rebel, but like it's not near as good as the R5 because it's still a what do they call that? A
HDLR.
No, yeah, but it's not a digital camera. It's it uses I can't remember the lenses and all that, stuff like that. And it's not in low light. It's really, you can't really film anything in low light. So we're at some point we kind of want to, get towards that direction too. But outside of that, it's just GoPros and iPhones.
So basically, with that low light, you just want to get one. You don't really need a lens that zooms in, zooms out. You just need a wide range lens and a camera that you can control the ISO on.
Yeah.
So your ISO is what controls that light on it. But speaking of high school football, man, my senior year of football, I tore all 4 ligaments in my knee.
Oh man! Oh my gosh!
And I'm talking about this was at the end of March, like middle of March. It was like COVID and everything. I tore my leg all up. I turkey hunted all year on crutches. We killed 18 birds that year, and I was on crutches.
Oh my gosh! To talk about a determined hunter, you're like, I had to get through turkey season.
Dude, why didn't
surgery.
you put a TikTok out with that, or did you?
Yeah, that might be the good one, man.
Well, look, I didn't play football through like I didn't play football still my senior year because I didn't want to do summer workouts. I was always commercial fishing.
Yeah.
And COVID hit, and you couldn't have summer workouts.
Yeah.
So I'm in the weight room, and my coach and the football coach, me and him are good friends, and he was like, Jerry, why don't you just go play football? I said, man, I couldn't tell you a position on the field. And he was like, I'll teach you. I said, all right, I'll play. So I got to playing, and man, they put me on kickoff right out the gate. I was going to kick off receiver and corner and kickoff return. And my first game, we was on kickoff, man, and we run out, and I look up, and our stands were packed, and I was like, holy crap. I said, man, I'm under the lights. This is my first game, and I'm right out the gate. So I go up, and I get my first tackle. So it's like 4 games on down the road, and the guy they pass the ball, and the guy's coming around the corner, and I crack him. And he fumbles, and when I stand up, my teammate comes around the corner and hits me right square in my chest. And my leg popped.
Yeah.
And I stand, and I was like, man, I'm good. I'm Jared Droze. You can't hurt me. and I jump up, and all of a sudden my leg pops out of place.
Oh.
And I fall back down on the ground, and they take me over there to the bench, and they're like, I was like, I'm good. I said, I'm going back in the game. And when I take my leg off the side of that table, she hinges and pops out, and I can't move it. She's just hanging there. And I squeal like a baby. They ended up putting 3 screws in it, 2 artificial tendons, a hamstring, and a cadaver tendon.
Oh my gosh, man!
Wow.
Luckily, you did it, 17, 18 years old, where your body has a lot of resiliency, resilience. Yeah. Sorry, help me out with the word. But how is that holding up, man? Because that is a catastrophic knee injury for real. I mean, it doesn't.
Oh man, I feel it big time as far as standing up at them shows all weekend. She'll get tight on me. And the crazy thing is, my buddy Cole Huff, he did the same thing with his knee, but riding a bull.
Wow. Well, I believe it, riding a bull.
Yeah.
You don't.
Well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we're catching the delay. I was just gonna say that in football you hear the ACL, MCL, something like that. You don't. It's very rare you hear that whole blown out knee.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Well, the funny thing was, man. So like I was still out partying, and I would go around telling them like I'm downtown in bars on crutches with a full knee brace on. And they're like, well, how'd you mess your leg up? I'm like, riding the bull. And they were like,
couldn't say high school football.
That's right. I ain't gonna tell him I was in football. I was riding a bull.
Yeah.
And then I met Cole. I was like, dude, how'd you tear your leg up? He was like, riding a bull. I was like, man, now I can't use that line no more.
That's funny, man.
That's so awesome.
I got to bring this up real quick because, you were talking about the fake ID earlier. This is a funny story that I've never told on the podcast, but...
Oh, tell it. We're the reality. we are the reality of hunting and the reality of personal lives to an extent.
Yeah, so when I was 19, me and my buddy, there's this country music festival down in Fort Lauderdale. It's called Tortuga. And we're like, man, we want to go down there, but you got to be 21 to order drinks and all this. And we're like, shoot. So we got on some website, long story short, and ordered these IDs. And somehow Customs got it, sent it to Florida Highway Patrol's desk. They show up at my parents' house, and they're like, yeah, is Tristan here? And I wasn't. They call me, and they're like, yeah, we need to talk to you.
Your sister answered the door.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, the cops are looking for you. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm not, like, growing up, I wasn't a knucklehead like that. Like,
nah, I mean, y'all straight laced.
I'm not kidding. I didn't drink a beer until we went to Dominican when I was a senior in high school. That was the first time I drank a beer.
Yeah.
And obviously when you're 18 over there, it's no big deal. But so I just super straight laced with stuff like that. And me and my buddy get this fake ID, and I'm 19, and the guy, Florida and Illinois are the two states where it's a felony to have a fake ID.
Yeah.
He goes, son, you just committed a third-degree felony.
And you had your best friend in town.
Yeah, one of my best friends is in town. We're actually going to play golf, and I get this call, but yeah, so long story short, 6 months of waiting, and then it's community service and all this other stuff. It gets taken off.
He's hearing everything from of course his buddies are like, bro, you're burning down. Yeah, you're going to the prison. You're going to Leavenworth.
Dude, I was so scared.
I mean, and honestly, as a parent, I was very concerned when I heard it was a felony, because I was like, man, any judge, they did it to a bunch of FSU kids.
Yeah, I mean, they want to make an example out of you.
Make an example, bro, you're in the hands of the judge, and Tristan wasn't the type of young man that I had to be like, use like mind over matter to like freak him out. So I didn't, like, my daughter, if that happened to her, I'd be like, they're going to burn you down forever. And I have to drive the stake, dude, to get her to realize. Yeah. Tristan, I can't do that. I didn't even have to do that. He was just already worried about it as it was, but.
Well, yeah, they tell you, hey, it's I think 1 to 5 years in prison or whatever for a third-degree felony, and I'm like freaking out at 19.
Well, and I think one thing that's important to talk about, and I don't know if you were going to say this, Tristan, if you were, I apologize for cutting you off, but, Tristan connected with God.
That was the
deeply.
That was the biggest time, yeah.
Through that scenario. So, while it was what it was, there was a purpose behind it.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people outside looking in just hear like a fake ID. Like, everybody has a fake ID in high school and college, but like, to me, I'd never done anything wrong. And
probably 90% of the population would be just like, whatever, I'll get through it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, to me, it was like
severe.
Foundation shaking, like I might be going to jail, so I better, get right. But anyway.
Oh, that's a good one. Like us, we'd run from the cops. Like, I was running from them one night, and I didn't know this cat had
we have got to put him in contact with Cade.
Yeah.
I didn't know this cat had an 8-foot fence in his backyard. So I'm running full speed, and I'm waiting for the cop to hit me with the light, right? And I look up, and it just fold up into this fence. And I'm laid out in the back.
Do you want coffee that doesn't suck? Get the Duck. Dirty Duck coffee is made specifically for the waterfowl enthusiast. Enjoy flavors like Morning Wood, Dark Dynasty, Cinnamon Teal Snickerdoodle, and First Flight to unlock the flavor that you'll enjoy in the blind for years to come. Our friends at Dirty Duck Coffee Company are now offering all Zero Duck 30 followers a 15% discount when you use code ZeroDuck15 on your next order.
I'm laid out in the backyard, and I'm like, if they catch me, they can just have me at this point.
This wouldn't have happened to been a few days before the football game, was it?
No. So the first ID I ever had taken, right? I was at high school prom. We had parents that got us a beach cottage. We're 17 years old. And we're at the beach on our own. You can't tell us nothing. And we've already had our fun on the beach, and we were all tore up. And we get to this place to eat dinner, and I watch them take forward IDs at the table. I'm like, I said, I bet you they ain't gonna take mine. And I hand the guy my ID, and he brings me back a beer, and I take a sip of it, and I said, this thing ain't got no alcohol in it. And this man brings me back a non-alcoholic beer.
Oh.
And keeps my fake ID. I said, man, how you gonna tell me my thing's fake? He was like, I don't know. You want me to call the cops? I said, look, you got me. I'm good. Can y'all hear me?
Oh yeah. No.
And then, so the next one, the second one I got taken, I was in Maryland. I went to get in this bar, and I handed it to him. My ID fell apart in his hand. I done washed it like 5 times in the washing machine. And I said, look, man, I done washed this thing like 5 times. I was like, it's real. He's like, man, I'll let you in. I just got to let my manager look at it. Handed it to his manager. His manager's looking at it. I said, look, dude, it's real. I was like, if you don't think it's real, just give it back and I'll leave. He's like, well, what if it's fake? No. I'll call the cops. I said, look, man, I'm already drunk. I said, I'm going back to the hotel. You can keep the ID. I'll buy another one for $50. And I get walking down the road, and 2 weeks later, they send my ID back in the mail.
No kidding.
That is hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
Well,
I got stories like that all night.
I'll tell you what, man. While we're on the fake ID train, and if y'all listen to this, you got a story related to this, so it's definitely relatable. So, me and my buddy Mike, and his dad go to this Deer and Turkey Classic in Illinois, and my buddy Dave. Yeah, we go up there, and none of these guys besides me and Bill, he's an old timer, had been to one of these, and it's a big deal in Illinois when you go to the Deer and Turkey Classic, and right there in the heart of the Midwest, and it's packed. We go in there, and you're just exhausted by noon because you're just running, and basically asking everybody, "Do you got a bag? You do? Okay, great." And you're just stuffing them, and Bill says, well, let's go, get some lunch. I said, all right. And he goes, where you want to go? And he goes, well, there's this tavern over here or whatever, and they serve, bar food. And I said, all right. Well, we go over there, and Michael, his boy at the time, was 19. And we go in there and sit down at the booth, and waitress comes up. She goes, what can I get you boys a drink? And Dave says, I'll take a Mick Ultra. And I said, well, I'll take I think I said a Bud Light at the time, and Bill said, I'll take a Bud Light, and looked at Michael, and Michael said, I'll take a Bud Light. And his dad looked at him, and she said, well, can I see your ID? He said, yes, ma'am. And he reached back in his wallet, gives her the ID right in front of his father. And she goes, okay, we're all good. Thank you, Chris. His name's Mike. His dad goes, Chris? He goes, Chris? He goes, you couldn't do better than Chris. He goes, come on. He goes, I didn't know you had a fake ID. And he goes, well, I wasn't going to tell you I had a fake ID. He goes, well, I thought we was like tight. And he goes, not that tight.
I'll tell you the first place I got in with an ID, I was at Myrtle Beach playing a softball tournament. I was like 16. I was still playing high school baseball, and they asked me to come play a men's softball tournament. And they're like, Jared, you want to go to the strip club? I was like, no, I don't. I said, you know what? I want to go. So he's like, the boy has 2 of the same IDs. So he hands me one ID, and so he goes in first, and somehow we ended up with this guy on the street drinking hot beers. We finally get there, and we get in, and I'm amazed. I'm kicked back, I'm perplexed. And the boys are like, Jerry, we're going to buy you a back room. I said, don't do it. Please don't do it. Man, they buy me this back room, right? And this woman is like 50 years old and Dutch. We're not going to talk about what all went down in the back room. When we got out of there, I swear we had to break some wire brushes out. It wasn't good. I said, we got to go, boys. You got to get me home. Get me home.
Hey, you know what? It just occurred to me. You know, y'all, this younger generation, all had to use fake IDs. You know what we use?
What?
Mustaches. Bro, I was born with a mustache. You look at my baby pictures. But I'll tell you what. I was walking into a bar at 17 all day long. Dime draft on Tuesday nights at the local little town bar. All you had to do is have a mustache, and you were in. Nobody asked for. You didn't even try a fake ID. You had to have a mustache.
That's hilarious.
That's right. The bad thing about it was all the other people that had them, they were under the table. Like, they didn't never say nothing. But me, I was the life of the party. You know, I'm getting on the mic singing karaoke. I'm going to hang out until we shut it down. So we come out of this bar one night downtown, and I looked to my left, and there's like 15 cops standing there. And I'm by myself. I want to go to Waffle House. My friends have done left me. My phone's on 5%. So I walk down there, and I give them all fist bumps talking about back to blue, back to blue, back to blue. I bail out of there, and I'm strutting myself walking down the street. I said, I just got away with that. And I get to going down the road, and I'm walking down the road with my thumb out trying to hitch a ride. And somebody stops and picks me up. And the Waffle House I was going to was closed. And the other Waffle House we're going to, I'm not racist at all, but I'm the only white person in there.
Uh-huh.
And I can't see straight. And I'm looking around me, and everybody's giving me the eyeball. The guy that gave me a ride was black. And we get going back down the road, and this guy starts looking at me weird. And I'm like, please, Lord, I said, if he's gay, please don't send him my way. Nothing against gays. And this guy comes out and tells me he's gay. And I just dropped them a pin to where they picked me up because it was 4 o'clock in the morning just about at this point. I said, look, dude, just drop me off right here in this 4-way intersection. Appreciate your ride. I bought your Waffle House, and I'll be right here. So I'm sitting on the curve at a certain, I don't even remember what time it was now, and I'm eating the Waffle House bowl sitting in a 4-way intersection, just chilling.
This is your guy. When you're driving by at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, what is that dude doing? That was him.
And I was just sitting there chilling, eating my Waffle House bowl, and I fall asleep on the sidewalk. I wake up to the girls I dropped the pin to, and they're like, come on, get in the car, let's go.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Oh man, that's a good stuff.
And I got stories like that all the time.
Oh man,
y'all want to get on the topic?
That's so funny.
Man, you know what's so mind-blowing for me? And I've been thinking about this for 15, 20 minutes as we've been going through this podcast. And, you know, yeah, we cut up and talk about some funny stories and all this stuff, you know, but, man, I want to applaud you for your maturity. I think most people that are listening to this podcast until right now would think that you're talking to a 30 to 40-year-old man based on this young man's wisdom. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who raised you. You know, sometimes, you know, as a parent, you know, you try to do your best and you know, anybody that says, oh, their kid's that way because of their parents, you know, they're a troublemaker because of their parents. Well, I want to punch you in the face, all right? Because sometimes kids are just going to do what they want to do. But, man, you've had a great influence in your life. I can tell by just talking to you this long. And you are at such a great level of wisdom and maturity as a young man. I applaud you for that.
I appreciate it. Well, they gave me free range, you know. They messed up. I had to work it out of them. The first time they let me go out of town, I was going to NC State. You know, all the boys is up there in college. I'm going to NC State. I get up there and I absolutely go crazy. I wake up on a hammock beside a pool. I wake up on a hammock beside the pool, and that struck a match to me going crazy. So I was everywhere partying. You know, I'd have parties at the house, 200, 200 to 300 people from Friday night to Sunday morning.
Oh my God.
And we had this big old, I had my shop now. I don't know if y'all see my call shop on any of my videos, but that shop back in the day, I cut my sister's front porch off with a jigsaw and cut the arms off of it and put it in there for a dance table.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Tell me if you're from the South without telling me you're from the South.
Right.
I had a pool table, but they broke my pool table.
Dude, that would have fit right into the old classic Jeff Foxworthy, you're a redneck if.
Yeah.
That's right. But I had there was 15 girls on my pool table one night, and they broke my pool table.
Oh no.
And so I said, I got to have something for the next weekend. So I went and stole a porch. We put disco balls in there, and we're having a good time. And I was like, where did Chase and all the boys go? And I go outside, and I look in my pool in my yard, and it's like something you see off a movie. I'm not going to say what all was happening around the pool, but we had a strip club in our yard. I said, this ain't, and the reason I quit partying in the house, I just got tired of picking up the trash and everything. And once I tore my leg up, that slowed it down a lot too. And then we lost Chase, and I reckon all that planned out. And then I hung out with 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds my whole life, so I reckon that helped too.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, that stuff's hilarious. I'm glad we got into some of that because we've never kind of taken that angle on this podcast. I mean, we've been on. I mean, you'll be our 46th episode or 47th, and we've been doing it for almost a year now, and it's fun to talk about some stuff different like that, you know.
It sure is. It sure is, man.
It ain't like I said. I'm the same person on camera as if you are on the camera as if I'm off the camera. I am who I am. That's
great, man. Love that. Well, let's get into just a recap of your duck season. After all, we are 0 Duck 30, and as much as we like to, cover everything, we always got to bring it back to ducks somehow. So
that's right.
So let's talk about y'all's duck season, man. Where'd you guys start? Where'd you finish? How'd it go? All that stuff.
All right. So starting out, I got corn. I flooded cornfield in my backyard. I had 600 birds. I mean, absolutely pounding it early season.
Oh,
that's man. A lot of birds for right there in the backyard.
Yeah.
And I got greedy and I pumped it full of water, and I had a muskrat hole. And it blew my dam out, and I lost all my water in my backyard in a night.
Oh no!
And I got it rebuilt and back up and full in a day and a half, and I lost 3/4 of my birds in one day.
Oh my!
I lost 3/4 of them birds.
Wow.
So that was slow. And see, I don't really duck hunt a whole bunch through deer season because I'm running dogs. I'll go shoot a wood duck hole up early in the morning or something like that. But I feed dogs all year round, so it ain't fair to them unless I hunt them.
Right.
But our last week of the deer season, man, we couldn't. I mean, I ain't seen so many ducks around here in a while, and I was deer hunting. I should have been duck hunting, but I mean, I'd come across one of our bridges, and there'd be thousands, top of thousands out there rafted up.
Wow.
And we finally, after deer season, we got into it hard. We went to Oklahoma. We shot them good in Oklahoma. We come home. I got my scissor rig right on the boat. Y'all know what a scissor rig is?
No. Well, I'm. Tell me if I'm wrong, but we made a blind one time that was like kind of like out of PVC, and it kind of opened up like a scissor. Is that what it is, or no?
Okay. No, this rig floats on the outside of the boat in the water.
Okay.
So you throw your anchor off the front of the boat, you back up, you kick your boards off the side, and this floats in the water, and you put your pine bushes in it. So basically what you got is you got a duck blind wherever you want it.
Nice.
So it hinges in the back.
Yeah.
So you can pull the boat in and out to go pick your birds up.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
So you pull your boat back in and tie it up. So we've got our scissor rig right the last week of the season, and we went to working on them. I mean, we went to working on the divers good. And the last morning of duck season, we shot an 11-man limit of bluebills.
Wow.
And that's how we ended our season. I mean, we shot them. I didn't duck hunt as much this year as I usually do. I've been so dang on busy.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever, I don't usually like waking up unless I'm gonna go shoot some limits.
Right.
You know, and I like going out there and fellowshipping with unless I'm going out on the boat. Now I love being on the water. If we go out in the water and we kill 1 or 2 ducks, I had a ball.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as me going and walking through a swamp, which I love doing that too, but I don't like not shooting my gun.
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah.
But we had an amazing season. So basically, we hunt big water, we hunt flooded timber, we hunt swamps, and we hunt flooded corn.
Nice, man.
So we just built a flooded timber track this year. It's gonna be our first year hunting it. We had it built in time to fill it up last year, but I didn't want to do that because them dikes were brand new. I didn't want to blow them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got that flooded timber track built. It's probably about 5 acres. So that's going to be something new here. And where I'm from, see, because Hyde County, I don't know you ever heard of Hyde County, North Carolina, Lake Mattamuskeet.
No.
So that's the duck capital of North Carolina.
Okay.
All the birds that go down south, probably about 75% of them come through Hyde County because that place has got 2,400 duck impoundments on it.
Wow. Holy cow.
And so all them birds that got to go to Hyde County, they got to come right across to us.
Mm-hmm.
So these boys have been shooting pintails and mallards in the swamp all around us this year. And so we were like, I said, I got to do something to up our game because every swamp around here, there's somebody in it every morning. You know what I'm saying? They just don't catch a break.
Right.
So basically, if we're going to jump up on our wood ducks and some of our ducks, we got to get on them in November. So like we got to get on them early and we got to get on them.
Right.
So whenever that early season is, October or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we got to get on them early right there and we got to shoot them up good or else they're gone. Like they say wood ducks don't migrate. This is a crazy story here. We killed a banded bird. We killed a banded bird in our backyard this year from Massachusetts, banded wood duck.
Oh yeah, no,
This is the craziest part about it. I was at a show in Pennsylvania, and these people walk up to me. We're talking to them or whatever. We got on the banded bird topic,
mm-hmm.
and they said, well, we killed a banded duck this year from North Carolina. I said, really, what part? You'll never guess where this wood duck was from.
Where's that?
This wood duck was banded in my hometown, and they killed it in Maryland.
Wow, that's pretty crazy to hear that they killed it north of you.
Yeah,
but I guess
that's right.
I guess a lot of times when
depends when they were
banded, yeah,
when it was banded.
Yeah,
if it was after
banded in June.
What?
Wow.
That's even way crazier,
dude.
That's like reverse.
And
in 2018.
In 2018, wow. So that
just shows you that the woman will get you in trouble.
Wow, man. I've heard people say stuff like that about wood ducks, but there's no doubt, man. I mean, we've seen some hunts. I mean,
our partners at Huntwise are offering an exclusive discount for Zero Duck 30 followers. As an elite member, some of the features you'll immediately gain access to are Huntcast, Windcast, peak kill times, property lines, owner information and phone lookup, 250 map layers, unlimited offline maps, 3D maps, social media, and on top of it all, save up to 50% on some of the top hunting brands in the industry. Download and explore the #1 hunting tool set today and save 20% by using code DUCK30.
We got on a hunt in Arkansas one time. The first time we went to Arkansas.
That's when we really realized how many wood ducks migrate.
Yeah, and we went to Arkansas for the first time, and we spent, you always hear you go to Arkansas, don't expect to go out there on public land and kill birds your first morning, second morning, whatever. So we planned 3 or 4 days to scout of the week.
Yeah.
And finally, the third day, the best thing we found was a ton of freaking wood ducks. And I guess that the game warden had told us we shot our limits of wood ducks basically two mornings in a row, and it was like, by 7:30 you're done type thing. And then we wait around all morning trying to shoot some mallards, and never did, of course. But we talked to a game warden. He said it was a like a 10-year high on acorn drops
on the white oaks.
And just the wood ducks numbers were insane. And I mean,
I remember the game warden saying, I don't know how they know.
Yeah.
But he said it happens, and you guys are catching that. I mean, literally,
that
we
really showed us
were almost getting hit in the face.
Yeah, and that really showed us like the migratory like wood duck thing.
Yeah, I had no idea.
See numbers like that. I mean, you see, groups of 30, 40 wood ducks flying at a time.
Well,
all morning.
When we're from Florida, and here the license plate comes out as a wood duck.
Yeah, we thought that was pretty interesting.
We're like. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely wood ducks that don't leave, and there's definitely wood ducks that migrate.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me is, I'm sorry, these boys just reeled up a big Arkansas right here on the dock. No, I was just watching. They just got him up here and got him in the net.
Oh, nice.
They got thing about a wood duck is when they finish off a food source, they don't hang around.
Mm-hmm.
So like. During deer season, we had a real dry summer, and so all of our swamp bottoms got to grow a lot of smartweed in them.
Mm-hmm.
And smartweed is like candy to them. So they got eating on this smartweed, and it was knee high. And when they got done with it, it wasn't nothing but water in there.
Wow.
I mean, it's like somebody took a bush hog across it and mowed it all down.
Mm.
Wow.
And so when they ever finish their food source off, they don't hang around at all. They're going. I don't know where they go, but they go.
I've always thought that is crazy. I don't know how it is for y'all, but like, when we first started duck hunting, funny enough, we're from Illinois originally, but when we first started duck hunting, it was in Florida, funny enough, and there's actually a decent duck hunting scene in Florida, and which a lot of people are surprised to hear that, but you just. Unless you're down somewhere like the STAs in Southeast Florida or one of these like main hubs of waterfowl, it's not like you're just seeing them fly over like you are in the state of Arkansas or some of these other states. And I don't know how North Carolina is, but like you all of a sudden you're in Florida, you're like, oh, there's a few thousand ducks sitting there, and you're like, I haven't seen a duck fly over me outside of a wood duck in months.
Yeah.
You're like, how did they get there?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. You're like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
They just showed up.
Well, I was talking to some people from the Pacific Flyway at their last show, and they can shoot 7 birds a piece over there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was out of Oregon. He said it doesn't matter how cold it is or how hot it is. The ducks show up where he lives at the same week, every year.
Yeah.
Within the same couple of weeks every year, no matter what the weather is. And he was showing me videos, man. He'd just be standing up on the side of the bank, and there'd be a group of 400 pintails and widgeon just cupping right up in the decoys.
Wow. Well, you'll find this interesting. And we had talked to Dr. Bradley Cohen, is his name, and he's with Tennessee Technical College,
but he runs Cohen Wildlife Research Lab.
Yeah, they got a good following on social media and stuff, and they put out a lot of great research on banded mallards and GPS mallards and stuff. And that's basically through their research. Mm-hmm. Most of what they concluded is like the cold fronts. To give you the gist of it, they don't do as much as like what we think they do.
Right.
Like. You expect these big cold fronts, like, because they have like 200 or 300 mallards tracked at a time on GPS, and these cold fronts, if I hope I'm not saying this wrong, but they don't, like they found that really good cold front. You said y'all were in Oklahoma for it. They found with their birds in Tennessee, the ones that were getting shot, they weren't birds that they had banded, the year before coming from the north, migratory getting shot. What was happening is where these birds were sitting in these, timber holes that were shallow and stuff. They got pushed onto big water to stay warm, and it was just basically like a suicide mission for them because every hunter and everywhere was on big water because everything else was frozen up. And it's instead of being such a big migratory thing, which there was an aspect of that, but it was more so birds getting forced out of where they're comfortable at. I think.
Well, and to piggyback on what you're talking about, Tristan, one of the key things he mentioned was that what they found were these ducks that come down is basically in 2 pushes. Mm-hmm. You get your early season push, and then you get another push, regardless of the weather. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're sitting here listening to this, and you're like, weather makes a difference. Mm-hmm. Yes, bro, it does make a difference. All right, but you can't pass up scientific data and what it shows. And the biggest pushes, there's always a unique situation, but the biggest pushes of what they see consistently in that flyway is 2 main pushes they see, and it's different in every flyway. Just like you talk about in the Pacific Flyway and the Atlantic Flyway, what we see is once they get down to Florida, they're there. They don't reverse push. They don't do anything like that. They stay down there until they're ready to go back to where they want to breed at.
And that's one thing I want to touch on real quick, Jared, is just what's kind of interesting about Florida is we hunted Florida 2 years ago on the biggest cold front that there had been. Like Miami was the coldest it had been since like 2008.
Yeah.
It was like 32 degrees in Miami. So we're like, oh, well, in Central Florida, this should be freaking banging. I think we shot like 3 ducks. Everything was stale. Nothing would decoy. And that's when it really got us thinking, like, these birds just come here when they're going to come here, and it's not so much of, at least in a southern state,
Well, and I've talked to one of the biologists down in Central Florida, and there's a certain WMA that it does good on that initial push. And then it stinks. It's terrible. And he goes, it's not like we're sitting here watching birds continue to fly in, from the groves of them, just, this push necessarily, with the cold weather and everything else. It is like they get down there, they get shot at, and the number goes down per hunter real quick. Yeah. So it's interesting when you dive into all the different flyways and how the birds act different and what they do and what they eat is a crazy thing. I mean, we're used to Atlantic Flyway ringnecks eating anything from hydrilla to aquatics to whatever. And we shot them over a rice field this year in Arkansas that were fattest freaking ringneck you'll ever see in your life. So
That's right.
It's definitely a cool subject that we'll have to spend some more time on.
For sure, man.
The craziest thing is, so them poor birds, they catch a beating before they get to y'all. But when we realized we got a refuge right here from the house in Hyde County, and you can ride through that refuge. And so your first ducks that come down are, of course, your blue wings, but your first big duck that comes down is your pintail. So you can ride through that refuge and look, and if it's full of pintails, you haven't got a push. You got that first push of birds, then pintails coming in. If you just got pintails hanging around, you know what I'm saying, that then you ain't had another push of big ducks. So, but these birds, I mean, they're so smart, man. So they've been shot up. It's scary how many birds get killed in Hyde County a year. But it's crazy because 10 minutes before shooting light, they get up out of the flooded corn, they go to the refuge or the lake. The lake, you can't hunt the lake either. And then 10 minutes after shooting light, you could be standing there talking like we are right now, and they not even pay you no mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then you ride through that. You can ride through the refuge. I mean, there'd be bull sprigs, bull pintails sitting 5 yards from the truck just swimming around feeding. It's crazy that they know where their safe havens are.
Yeah.
And how a hen duck can go back to the same nesting ground from the bottom of the country back to the top and get just about in the same area where she was hatched out of. That just amazes me.
It's incredible, man.
It is. And some of the weird things that these ducks do, and I've watched these things on TikToks and Reels and stuff like that, is, and this is a great example, Tristan. We're in downtown, not downtown Jacksonville, but definitely a populated area, going to breakfast one morning. And we're walking through like this little town center type of thing. And all this tall grass is on the side of this building. We look down, there's a hen mallard sitting there laying eggs. Now, call it a city park duck, whatever you want to call it. But we see these things. If you go to Cohen Wildlife, they just posted a thing about a wild mallard that, what he was doing to survive this winter? He was spending all of his time going over to a major railroads, what do you call it? Depot or something.
It was a rail yard where like a container of corn had spilled or something.
Well, yeah, but it's like, like when you see them when there's like 20, 30 railroads all next to each other because they're shifting all those cars and all that stuff. It was a major area like that. And this mallard was hammering it.
Yeah.
I mean, hammering it. And he's a wild mallard.
Mhm.
You know, it's just crazy what some of these ducks will do to survive.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, just to watch them, you know, as far as behind the house, we don't hunt it much. I like watching them and see how many birds come in and where they come from, and just watching ducks pull ducks, you know. So, like, there'll be flocks just flying over the swamp back of the house, and they'll see a flock bank in, and they'll bank in with them. And it's crazy because these birds, I'll watch them go in there right at dark. You know, I'll watch them go in there right at dark. But when you go in there to hunt them in the morning, they're up and they're out of there. So they pick up in the middle of the night and go back into the swamp to roost. So they come and get their bellies full right at dark, and then pick up at pitch black night and go back into the swamp and roost in the swamp. And then they turn around and come back in there first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever see any mottled or whistling ducks up that way?
All right, so every once in a while somebody would kill a couple. So my buddy, he killed 2, but there's just a handful of them killed around here, not many.
Okay, I was just curious because I know that they're creeping. I mean, especially the mottled duck, and good that most of the time it's a 1 duck limit. But that duck is starting to expand a lot. But I would not be surprised, honestly, if Florida ups the limit. I mean, I don't know if they can go over the 6 limit without getting into federal regulations, but there's no doubt that if you're from the South, the black belly population is just exploding.
Oh man, it's turned into the local Canada
Louisiana,
goose.
I'll tell you.
It's turned into the local Canadian goose of, like, for sure Florida, but I know Louisiana's got a good, bunch of them and stuff. And
they're great for youth because they fly in this V slow. They're slow flyers.
You hear them whistling from 10 years away.
They're a cool duck. They feed at night. They roost during the day. I mean, they're just a weird duck to hunt. I was just curious if they got up towards you guys though.
Let me just explain to you how cool ducks are. So Hunt County, that used to be the goose capital of the world.
Wow.
So back in the day, that lake, they had drained that lake and planted it. So the lake ain't but like 3 foot deep, 4 foot deep, 5 foot deep. So they had the lake drained and planted.
Yep.
And they would pay they didn't get paid by the bushel. They got paid by the acre. So the locals would loosen their headers up and just stroll through the wheat or beans or whatever on the lake when it was dry. And when the Great Depression, they absolutely murdered the geese there. Now you won't hardly see a goose there.
Wow.
So now when the Great Depression come, they didn't have enough money to afford to keep the lake drained. So the lake filled back up with water. Yeah. So that photographic memory of those birds from that long ago are still coming back to that lake every year. That just amazes me.
Well, you know what? And that's funny you brought that up because Mr. Glenn out in Arkansas, he owns the lodge that Delta Thunder has or whatever there, and
we're tight with this really good buddy of ours that owns a outfitting business out there in Arkansas, and Mr. Glenn basically leases the lodge to him. That's so just
he lives next door, and honestly, if you're going to hunt at Delta Thunder Outfitters, Mr. Glenn is part of the experience, and you have to enjoy that because it's definitely worth it, the time. But he would tell us stories about how it was all woods. I mean, we're talking Arkansas puts out 1 million acres of rice, so that's a lot of flat ground, right? It is transformed, he said, over the last 45 years in an incredible way. It used to be woods. He said you wouldn't even see a goose. Not one not a snow goose, not a speck, nothing.
Well, Cade's dad said he's been guiding since, he guided for 41 years, right? And he said the same thing about geese, right?
Yeah. And here's what Mr. Glenn told me. He goes, see these ditches and stuff? These ditches and this Cache River and Big Ditch and all these things, they have always been here. And they just fly it. no matter what. There are certain, like when we look at the map, like if you go to DU and say, where are the flyways? And you see these red, orange, blue, whatever, for each flyway. It's crazy to me how specific flyways are in those certain square miles that you hunt in Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's got to be the same everywhere else. You just like when we've been up in Florida and saw green wings up at that one lake with all the gators and coots and whatever it is. I think that we missed the mark a little bit on migration. Well, maybe just people don't think about it this deep, but when you're talking about, say, a salmon, and there's all of these tributaries and stuff that they go all the way back to where they were born.
Yeah.
The same holds true about ducks.
Well, it's kind of like we were just talking about.
And we've heard the GPS data to support that and everything. And it's pretty, I don't know, man. They blow my mind. They just blow my mind.
I reckon there's more of a food source for them out west, you know what I'm saying? But see, the crazy thing is, I killed a banded bluebill one year from Saskatchewan, Canada.
Yeah.
And, but a lot of we don't have the food source. The reason the birds go to High County is there's 2,400 impoundments there flooded with corn. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They have the food there, but see, it's crazy to me that you drive out to the Midwest and the birds are landing in fields, and we were shooting canvasbacks in cattle ponds, and it's just crazy that those birds were landing in fields there, and they don't even look at a field here. It's kind of weird how that works.
Yeah, they're so different.
They're so different, man. I mean, just the type of the biggest thing we see a huge difference in is like you want to talk about like I guess you could point at like either a blue wing or a mallard. Like, so first of all, a mallard won't even migrate to Florida. So if you're shooting a mallard in Florida, it's a park duck.
It's not going to happen.
And then, so that's crazy to think about. And then, we shoot blue wings in the marsh. Like, you're out there with alligators and you might shoot them in the mangroves where there's, there might be a bull shark in the water or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And then you shoot them in Arkansas on a reservoir or rice field.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It is. I mean, just like that year that, our Teal Heaven video, there's no doubt there was not enough water to float. Mm-hmm. Not even enough. It was a couple inches. And the only thing you saw there were all these little holes, like, all over the place, from crustaceans going up and down, larvae, whatever they are, crawdads, crayfish, you name it. And these blue wing were just smashing that, dude. And I have done a lot of research that shows that the puddle ducks in general, their main food source during a migration, they have to pound that protein. They have to have that. And I think it blows everybody's mind when I saw a beautiful picture of a hen mallard holding a small bullfrog in its mouth. And I think for most of us puddle duck hunters, we're like, I feel violated right now. I mean, I thought they only ate acorns and rice and smartweed and everything else. No, ducks smash a lot of protein.
Yep. They're definitely an amazing creature that can do that. So I know it's going to be off topic. I'm going to tell y'all one more turkey hunting story.
No, you're good, man.
So this is the most memorable one. This is the last turkey me and Chase killed together. And I believe that we were after the woman's pet turkey. Now, I ain't going to lie to you. So we pull up back at this field, and there's turkeys all out there. And there's one turkey, I swear it looks like it's 50 pounds. Uh-huh. I'm like, holy crap, it's got to be the woman's pet. But he's hanging out there with the wild turkeys. But you couldn't kill him from that field because it was a field back in the woods, and it was one way in, one way out, and turkeys would see you, they'd bust up out the field. Mm-hmm. So we swing around from the back of them, and we're sitting down, and I call when they cut me off. I said, all right, well, that's it right there. So I'm sitting here, and I'm hearing something coming from beside me. And it's close, and I can't see what it is, and I can see a long ways. And all of a sudden, I feel something coming across my lap, and it's a dang snake.
Oh, hell no, dude.
And it's coming across my lap, and I'm just sitting there stiff. And I'm like, Chase, do not get up. Do not.
You had to.
And he jumps up, and the snake takes off my lap and goes off in the woods. And about that time, I thought I heard a bird gobbling behind me, and I call, and the bird gobbles, like, starts gobbling hard right behind us. And I'm like, he's on the other side of the road right there. So by that time, I hear rocks creaking coming up the road, one of the hunting club paths. So I take off running as hard as I can to the path. I mean, as hard as I can. And I jump out in the road, and I stop this truck. And we're creeping down the road. And I look, and the turkey's literally, we're standing up in the road, and the turkey's 40 yards on the other side of the ditch from us, full strut. And I'm like, Chase, do you see him? He's like, yeah, I see him. Boom, he kills this turkey. and this ditch looks dry.
Mm-hmm.
So I bail across there to go get this bird, and when I hit the bottom of this ditch, I sink up to my neck in mud.
Oh, dude.
So I'm wallowing trying to get out the bottom of this ditch. And I get over there and get this bird, and I come back, and I was like, and the guys were coming in there planting their deer food plots. And they were like, he said, dude, I didn't know what the heck was coming out the woods beside the truck. I said, well, here you go. That was one of our craziest turkey hunt stories, and we got all kinds of crazy ones, but that was one I wanted to say. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great, man. I'm glad he brought that up, and I always think about that with turkey hunting in the spring, like a snake crawling across to you. I mean, I've thought. I mean, we've seen eastern diamondbacks in Georgia and stuff, and
I was on my hands and knees face to face with that.
Yeah,
yeah, that scared me big time.
Yeah.
you talk about rattlesnakes, bud. We're slam full of them.
Really? Now, do y'all?
Oh, dude, we rattlesnakes everywhere.
Well, do y'all probably see the same stuff, eastern and pygmies, I'd guess, or what do y'all?
No, we're just easterns.
Yeah.
Well, see, they don't want to say this is true, but they released them.
Huh.
So we have a lot of pine. So basically, if it's not a farmer, a pine tree company owns it, so a timber company.
Uh-huh.
So these big timber companies said these rabbits were eating their sapling pines up.
Mm.
So they bring all these rattlesnakes in and turn them loose.
Mm.
And, it ain't nothing for us to go. I mean, like, we'll see them on a warm day in December. They'll be crawling all down the paths and everything.
Wow.
We don't kill them because you're not supposed to, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But they're everywhere.
Now,
well, do you see rabbits? That's what I want to know.
Oh yeah, dude. We're eat up with rabbits.
Oh, okay. Well,
There
the balance must be all right.
There's quite a few people that do take care of them, though.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just be walking through the woods, and I mean, they'll just be crawling all over the place. I mean, but see, another thing is we got cottonmouths real bad.
Yeah.
So what we do the street debris removal. So we go in and we cut the trees out of these swamps so the water can flow.
Mm-hmm.
So springtime is the worst time for snakes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still cold and they want to get that sunlight. So you'll be in there cutting with the chainsaw, and these cottonmouths are laid up eyeball high up in these trees.
Yeah.
Down these swamps trying to get sunlight. And man, you can't kill them all, but I mean, you just got to push them out of the way with a stick and keep cutting. But they'll be crawling between your legs and everything.
Dude, that's nuts. It is crazy thing. I mean, you see a lot of water moccasins in Florida and stuff. You kind of become numb to them, but it's crazy. And it's funny you say that about spring, because it's really like North Georgia spring just hit, like, honestly, this week. It really felt like, I mean, you're seeing bugs, you're seeing pollen, and we got this park about 10 minutes from the house that me and my wife always like to go walk at. It was a farm up until 1999, and then I guess the state just made it a park, or maybe the family, that's what they wanted to do or whatever, and it's hundreds of acres. And man, you just in the last week, she's seen probably 5 or 6 snakes, and didn't see a snake for months before that. It's crazy. The spring hits and they're out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we went to a tree the other night. The coon dogs went in there and treed. And we got in there to this tree, and I said, "Look at that little snake right there, little green snake. He was
cool.
He was hanging all upside down in the briars. He was cold, buddy. I picked him up, and he could barely move.
That's
But
funny, man.
speaking on protein and stuff, cold nights like that, I mean, it's good for the ducks. Like a warm spell like this, and then it gets cold. Sometimes that is crucial for their migration back north because all of them bugs come out and stuff, and then when it gets cold, they lay dormant on the banks and in the marshes and everything like that, and it allows them ducks to get that protein like you were talking about earlier.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a real good point. You know, I can't help but think of this. You know, y'all talk about snakes. Is, you know, what's so cool about today's age is that you're a phone button away from capturing something all the time, you know. And back when I was a kid, I remember I was walking behind this old church that was in there's a bunch of woods back behind it, and I was walking back there during spring, and I came to a spot where there was a lot of like boulders and all that stuff, and I saw a snake ball of garter snakes that would freak most people out for years. I mean, dude, it was like, if I had to guess, half of my body.
Wow.
Like that. Like you take like 3 foot and probably 3 foot in diameter. And I don't know how many there were. Hundreds.
Wow.
Hundreds of snakes. And I'm sitting there watching Nat Geo one night, and they're like, yeah, some of the biggest snake balls in the world you'll ever see is the garter snake. And I was like, bro, I saw that, and I have nothing to show to prove it.
Oh.
But today, you just pull out your phone and take a video of it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. You had stepped out for a second, but me and Jerry were talking about, like, you know, when y'all were younger, like the stuff, when we started Zero Duck 30, we were like, worst case scenario, we're going to film this cool stuff to work back, you know, look back on years from now. And just the stuff, the hunting stories I hear from you, like that's a perfect example, you know, the stuff that you couldn't get on camera back then.
Yeah, no, there's so many. There's so many, which, you know, really leaves a lot of y'all going, that's bull crap. You know, that's not true, you know. But you know what?
Well,
I think all of us hunters will agree that if you're out in the woods, the swamps, the marshes, wherever you're at in the outdoors, you do it enough, you're all going to have some stories.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I think everybody would attest to that.
Absolutely.
Look, this is an Oklahoma story here. This one's funny. We were duck hunting beside this pond one morning, and me and the boys, we fell to arguing, talking crap. And one of the boys was back there in the back. He was smoking him a cigarette. All you could see was a cigarette glowing back there in the background. This is when we first started going to Oklahoma. And he turned around and said something to the boy. I ain't going to say what they all were saying. And he come up to him on top of this dam. Now, this dam's like 12, 15 foot tall, straight down. And we're laying up on the bank of it. And he turned around and looks at him and said, well, what are you going to do? And, I mean, he clear out drop kicks him from the top of this dam. right square into the pond. 3 barrel rolls, and my best friend, I mean, he's floating on his back in the pond. And they come out and they fall to fighting with each other right there on the bank. And me and Chase were laying there. I said, Chase, do we break them up? And we were laughing to death. And we said, no, let them fight it out. And and it was like 12 degrees that morning. That was a cool story.
That's just like some buddies right there.
Well, and you know what? Where's Devin and Drew?
Yeah.
Where's Devin and Drew? Here we go. Yeah. All right. So I got one for you. So we have, we're hunting, actually, and y'all can look it up, but there's a place in Georgia where the world record bass was caught. It's a WMA. But good friends of mine had an olive farm, boarded it. And we got talking about deer hunting and everything. He said, no, y'all come up here and bring camp up here on our property. You can't hunt our land, but, you know, you're right there less than a mile from that place, and they got shower houses and everything else. And we were like, man, what a deal, you know? So we go up there, and we just I mean, they were incredible people and just let us, like, just hang out and have a good time. Well, we invite all the buddies up, and we go up there hunting, and we get up there, and Tristan's got a good friend of his that he grew up with named Devin out in Illinois. Well, he's come from Illinois, or was he actually still in the military?
He was in the military in South Carolina, yeah.
Yeah, so he had to come from South Carolina. Drew's our buddy from Florida. We go up there, and they get talking about who's tough, you know, and all this stuff. And Drew's like, oh, I was a wrestler and champion and all this stuff. And Drew's, you know, and
Drew at the time, Drew's like, you know, I mean, at the time he's probably late 20s, and I mean
he was 30.
He wasn't in bad shape, but he's not like brick shit house. My buddy Devin, is 22, just freaking in the military, jacked as shit, just came back from Afghanistan, working out for 6 months straight. And
so we're bragging about we're on our way up there. We're bragging to Drew about. I was like, yeah, he's like, Dad, dude, Devin's like real serious with the stuff. He's like ripped out and everything. He goes, I could take him. And I go, oh yeah? I said, you think you could take him? As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, I got to set this shit up. I have to set it up, man. So I started getting in each one of those guys' ears. As soon as they got there, man, I was just like, Drew said that you ain't nothing but a POS, and he'd be like, I'd go up to Devin and be like, or I'd go up to Drew and be like, Devin said that you're a pussy and he can take you wrestling any day, even though he has never wrestled. And so I used to get them stirred up. Of course, a couple beers in, shirts come off.
Yeah.
Shirts come off right there in front of the fire. And we watch these guys, just barrel it out for egos. It was incredible.
It was so funny. That's literally the same kind of story as what you got.
but they got done. It was like it was a touche.
Yeah, they decided to quit.
Yeah, they both guys
too
was
tired.
Like, yeah, we're too tired. You won some, I won some. It was a good little battle.
Funny story on that. This is also Oklahoma. This year, the first year we stayed in the Airbnb there. Nicest people you ever meet in the world. Well, they're big jiu-jitsu family, however you say it, right?
Yeah.
So their neighbor, like, hey, this family, they live back off the road. They got 2 houses back there, and their son just got back from military or whatever, or something like that. And he was walking through the yard, and I was getting something out of the back of the truck. I was like, hey, man. I said, how are you? He's like, what are y'all doing? I said, oh, we're in the Airbnb. He's like, I'm going to come over there and check you out in a little while. Well, by this time, we had already amped up jiu-jitsu because we were already in a jiu-jitsu place, right? So these people got a whole gym in the back of our Airbnb with floor mats and everything. So this guy from the military comes over there, and one of our boys on the team, he's a pretty strong cat, which I took him one night, but I'm a little more agile than him. So we were back there, and we laid the mats out and everything. And next thing I know, this dude's doing cartwheels and crap in his back room. He's doing like Kung Fu Panda moves back here on these mats in the back room, and we all look at Jeremiah on the team and said, Jeremiah, you're screwed, bud. And they lock up with each other, and I mean they literally wrestle it out for like 10 minutes, and then they call it a tie. But we got a video of it, man. I mean, he's up there doing like cartwheels on his hands upside down. It's actually one of our Oklahoma videos.
That is incredible.
That's great, man. Well,
good stories, man. Good stuff.
Well, man, we could sit here and take your time all night, Jared, but, we want to be respectful of your time and everything, man. It is 9 o'clock, and we appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. And, man, where can you tell everybody where people can find your social, your YouTube, all that good stuff?
So on YouTube, we're Next Southern Generation Outdoors. We got 3 accounts that are banned on TikTok. So we got like 3 different names. The one that we use now, we got Jared Droze 1, which is my personal. We got the Wicked Killer page, and then we got the Next Southern Generation Outdoors page.
Right on.
And then no, we don't have Wicked Killer on TikTok. We just have Next Southern Generation Outdoors and my personal. Instagram, we have my Jared Droze, my personal, and then Wicked Killer Calls is our other one.
Okay. Well, right on, man. Well, we appreciate it. And also, I know you're doing a lot of shows and stuff. What are some of just off the top of your head, I know you're going to one tomorrow, and this will be, released probably in a few days, so it'll be after that. But what are some of the upcoming, shows that people come see you at?
So our next show we got to go to, which is going to be our favorite right here at home, Dixie Deer Classic. We get to meet a lot of our followers and stuff. Our next show after that's the Palmetto Classic. We have East Coast Waterfowl Show. We have the Waterfowl Festival in Maryland, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Richmond, Virginia, South Carolina, Seawee Show. We got all kinds of shows coming up. So if y'all just keep up with us on social media, we'll usually give y'all about a week in advance on where you can catch us at our next show. And dude, we love meeting all of our followers. We love talking to everybody, having stories like this with each other, and that's why we do it. It's not about when we go into shows, we don't go in it to try to make money. We go in it to try to break even and just be able to meet people like this, you know, just being able to talk. It's about who you meet.
Yeah, it is.
That's
It
a
is.
fact, man.
It's over and over again. Do we have that conversation with people on this podcast?
Yeah.
It is about the relationships and the people you meet. And I love that. As a 50-year-old guy, I feel like, you know what? That's what success is measured by.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is.
Well, it's such a cutthroat industry, you know, nobody really wants to help anybody in the outdoor industry. It's just how it is, you know. But at the end of the day, we're all in for the same goal, on chasing the same dreams. And at the end of the day, we need to work together to try to help each other be successful in what we do.
That's right.
You know, and it's hard to explain that to a lot of people, you know, especially they get intimidated even though we're young, but they get intimidated because we're young and we're putting out really good product, and they're scared that we're going to come after them. So they don't want to give us any tips. So basically, you pay for your education when you start out with a business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So basically, you have to pay a few extra dollars here and there to be able to get some kind of inventory or something like that. So they don't want to tell you how they get around those cracks and crannies. So if any kind of business, you pay for your education starting out.
But you know what's
That's
great
true.
about that is it what's the right word I'm looking for? It forces development. It forces development in a better, different way. And that's the one thing that, before we cut out of here, that I will attest to from being 50 and my son being 27 now, right? Six, doggone it. He's 26, and I have to always be on the lookout for the more efficient, technical side, way of doing things, and keep my mind open to that, because yeah, there is some old school ways of doing whatever you do. I don't care if you do carpentry, duck hunting, it doesn't matter. There is those base things, but if you keep a closed mind to how things can develop and get better. I love some of the people we've had on that are being bold and sticking their neck out, and their family and their personal money and everything else on the line to try to re-engineer some of the things that us duck hunters have followed for years. And I think that's a great thing, and you hit the nail on the head.
And another thing is about that is the youth, man. A lot of these old-timey hunters, you know, they got one way they like to do it.
Yeah.
So if it's not their way, it's the wrong way.
Right.
And if you know, like anything, the playing field in any kind of hunting is wide open.
Yeah.
And for these kids, you know, they go on social media and TikTok and stuff like this, and they see all these different types of ways that they can do things, you know, and then somebody tells them it's the wrong way. The way I look at it, you know, we go into a hunt, I'll tell a kid, I'll be like, look, you put a game plan together on how you think we can kill these birds, and we'll set up on your game plan. If it don't work, me being the more experienced hunter, I should be able to put a game plan together for you to kill the bird later on, you know?
Yeah.
So just allowing those kids to be able to be more vocal in a hunt rather than just you being controlling over them, I've realized they take to it better that way, and they want to do it more.
Well,
That's
yeah,
a phenomenal point, man.
It is. It's like, you know, they got some skin in the game. They get to be a part of it. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, I don't care what age you are. I mean, if you've got something to offer, and it goes to, you know, I've ran several businesses over my life, and one thing that I've always done is clean a toilet. You know, and I'm not above cleaning a toilet in the office. And what that does is it always puts my brain in the right perspective of when an employee would come to me and say, hey, this is what I think a better way to do it. Even though I've been in whatever industry for years, you got to keep an open mind, man. There's always a better way to do things. And some of these younger folks are so doggone passionate about it and so intelligent that we have to embrace that and get them involved as being part of it.
Yeah, man.
Well, the hunting industry it's like the world. The world's changing, so why wouldn't the hunting industry change?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's one of those things, unfortunately, like the population keeps getting bigger of the world, and the population of hunters, unfortunately is not what it was 10, 20 years ago. It's like, at least with waterfowl hunting, and I would imagine it probably is similar to some of the other types of hunting, you know. These numbers keep going down, and it's like stuff like you're doing, Jared, I mean, is extremely important to, you know, what, you know, the future of any of our sports looks like, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Well, that's what.
Thank you
Well,
for
that's what we
everything you
based our
do.
name out of. Yep, man. I really appreciate that. So we based our name out of. See, we started. I was in a turkey hunt magazine when I was little, and they called me the next generation. You know, so. And everybody, man, they gave me a hard time at school for it. You the next generation, say, you know, I blew it out of proportion. And so we started doing it, and I got to thinking, you know, if I don't train the next generation, the ones that don't have the opportunity, who is?
Right.
Yep.
You know, and who's
You're an
going to be able to
ambassador of
carry
that.
it on after me? Who's going to be able to carry it on after me? You know,
Yeah.
because if you think about it, we're here for just a short period of time on this earth. Somebody's got to carry it on. Like Chase died at 20 years old. That could be me anytime or anybody. I'm going to try to touch and grab as many lives as I can to get them closer to the Lord and get them in the outdoors and try to do the best I can, you know.
That's right, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. And I am excited. You're gonna get a repeat guest invite. Love talking with you. Love sharing the stories, and keep it up, man. We'll be there, definitely pulling for you guys.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate it. Maybe we can line a hunt up here in the future.
Not maybe.
Yeah, that'd be great,
Yeah,
man.
come on.
I don't play in maybes. I'm a veteran. Yeah, as Yoda
Well, maybe
said.
you should just go ahead. Maybe you just go ahead and get in the truck and come on then.
That's right. That's like as Yoda says, do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you, Jared, and I'll
Yeah, man. Good talking to y'all.
absolutely, brother. And
I've been southbound, I've been hellbound, riding on a midnight train. Going too fast now, think I'll slow down, standing in the pouring rain.